You're watching Force 13's live streaming service.
Now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for June 19th, live. Sorry for those technical difficulties. Apparently scheduling the stream does not automatically start it, but we are here nonetheless. Potential Tropical Cyclone 3L is active in the northern Gulf of Mexico, while Tropical Storm Dolores is active in the eastern Pacific this 170th day of the year. 32 storms have formed so far. There is potential tropical cyclone 3L in the northern Gulf of Mexico there. It has a 90% chance of development still of becoming a cyclone this 19th day of the hurricane season. 2 storms have formed so far. Will this become the third? In the eastern Pacific, there is Tropical Storm Dolores that has been named today after becoming 4E also. There's also another chance of development, a 10% one, to the southeast of that, and of course, 4 tropical storms have formed so far. There is a slight chance we could see a hurricane, but that does not appear to be seen at this time. In the western Pacific, there is Invest 94W. We are currently giving that a 60% chance of development. It looks like this could potentially become a tropical storm, possibly typhoon, as it approaches and passes Guam. In the North Indian Ocean, we have pretty much passed the first phase of the hurricane season, so it's not really expected that we see development of any kind of cyclones in the coming days, so it's all quiet in that aspect. Really nothing to be seen soon, and it looks like we're going to be waiting for a while to see the next one. There's Atlantic in terms of satellite imagery. There is potential tropical cyclone 3 clearly visible, been getting itself more organized, except it's extremely lopsided with all the tropical storm force winds and practically the convection and rainfall occurring east, well east to the center. In the Pacific, there is Dolores to the right of your screen. It's getting itself better organized as well, and of course it is expected to continue to intensify up until landfall on Sunday near Manzanillo. Central Pacific, there is really nothing going on, no much for cloud activity there. In the Western Pacific, there is 94W. That is looking to slowly get organized, a little bit more noticeable than it was yesterday. Of course, further development is possible from the storm, getting more likely by the day. So we guess we shall see where that ends up in terms of development there. Regardless, it is looking like a busy day in the tropics tonight with all threats there, so North Indian Ocean, monsoonal season continues there. Bay of Bengal looking to see all those cloud activity there with the rainfall as expected as we typically see in this time of year. Arabian Sea, the practic opposite, with really not much going on there except from outflow from the low pressure systems that we see there. Here we are at the main topics of tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. 3L and Dolores, both land threats and both to make landfall within the next 48 hours or less. Of course, 3L will be making landfall tonight around 2 to 4 a.m. probably is what we're expecting. Here are the sea surface temperatures for this tonight. We're looking at 29 to 30 degrees Celsius temperatures just to the or just near where Dolores is. Gulf of Mexico, of course, warming up as well. And of course, the main development region starting to get more 26 to 27, even some 28s in spots for the sea surface temperatures down there. Of course, this is a warming trend that is expected to continue as we head deeper into hurricane season, so be on the lookout for that in the coming weeks. North Indian Ocean, it remains pretty warm there as usual, 28 to 29 degrees Celsius there, although there is a little bit of a patch of 30 degrees Celsius to the east of India there. And the Western Pacific is, of course, warming up. Where Invest 94W is, it looks like it's going to be 28 to 29 degrees Celsius. It's really to the east of the Philippines, where you can see those 30 degree sea surface temperatures, as well as the South China Sea. There's a couple of pockets there. Of course, the southern hemisphere is cooling as we get more into winter, so that is really the case. And pretty much the sea surface temperature anomalies, we're looking at a really cold area, cooler than average temperatures from Hawaii all the way into Baja California, so there's not really much of a above average patch for the Eastern Pacific, of course, with those neutral, cold neutral conditions, and of course the warm subtropics and the warm northern West Pacific. So we'll switch it to our team here in a second. Alright, so we are here with our team consisting of Leahy, Nelson, Jonesy, Devin, Kay, and Mike. How are you all doing today?
Alright, thanks.
Okay, that's good. So, we're going to switch it to Nelson here, who is in the path of what is Potential Tropical Cyclone 3.0. What's going on in your end?
Yes, Xavier. I'm in New Orleans right now. We are getting rain at a rate of about 1.5 inches per hour. We have received over 2 inches of rain in downtown New Orleans today. However, in places like Lower Plaquemines Parish, Jefferson Parish, and St. Bernard Parish, they have already received upwards of 4.5 to 5 inches of rain from PTC3. And unfortunately for those areas, it does not look like it will be ending soon. The storms are training from south to north there. Luckily for me, closer to the city, I don't think I have much longer of precipitation left. And I'm going to go ahead and mute my microphone so you don't hear the rest of this.
Well, that is what's going on in Nelson's end. Let's see what Jonesy's got in his stream here. Jonesy, looks like you had the expected rainfall from 3.0.
I do. I have many different tabs up that will help us with our coverage tonight on both Dolores and PCC3L. As Nelson was saying, about 2 inches has fallen in downtown New Orleans. A couple areas, I think he said we're already talking about 5 inches of rain. And as you can see, New Orleans expected about to be another 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. To the east of New Orleans, we're seeing about 4 to 6 and 6 to 10 areas, and that's what we're going to see along parts of Florida, Alabama, and Mississippi, with a little isolated area just to the southeast of Mobile, possibly seeing 10 to 15 inches of rain. A little isolated area up here to the southeast of Birmingham, also in that 6 to 10, but if you look at these areas as well, Atlanta could possibly see 4 to 6, as well as Rome, home of the University of Georgia. Montgomery's on the border of that 2 to 4, 4 to 6, so PTC3 not only is the areas where it's going to make landfall, but also going to be a rainmaker well inland, and that is why there is a very big moderate area for flash flooding issued by the Weather Prediction Center. And you can see it goes up through Atlanta, Birmingham, Montgomery, New Orleans, and Mobile. They're under it, and they've been getting hammered by the rain. So I would not be surprised if there would be a small high risk area of flash flooding that gets issued. That is all possible. And on top of that, and you'll see what I just clicked, there is surge expected from PTC3 with general up to about 3 feet of surge expected. Most of the areas will receive about 1 to 2 feet of surge, though, at most. And with this rain as well, we have, from the Storm Prediction Center, a marginal risk for severe weather today, which includes 2% tornado and 5% for wind, and tomorrow a slight risk, which includes 5% tornado and 5% wind. So PTC3, even if it doesn't get named, even if it doesn't receive Claudette, still a very big thing to deal with here. in this part of the country.
Indeed. Alright, I'm gonna send it over to Leahy Stream, who is streaming the satellite on 3L, and it looks really disorganized in terms of typical storms that you normally see.
Yeah, it does look very, very disorganized, as you can see here. It's really borderline case right now of really being a tropical disturbance or tropical cyclone. But Recon recently went in there about an hour ago, and they found elongated center. So therefore, PTC-3L is not a tropical cyclone at this time. However, the impacts are not going to change regardless of if this forms into a tropical storm or not. You're still going to see, some areas 10 to 15 inches of rain, flash flooding, risk of flash flooding, and yeah.
Alright, and of course, 3L is not the only threat. We have Kay, who's been actively tracking Dolores. We'll go switch it over to him or her to cover the latest on Dolores. Kay, what's going on?
Thank you, Xavier. Yes, I've been keeping track of, all of the systems, but particularly those in the Pacific. Dolores has been developing quickly from a quite broad and weak disturbance to a depression to a now mid-range tropical storm in less than 2 days, which is an awful lot better than 3L has been doing. We expect this rate of organisation to continue, and it should begin rapid intensification shortly, as indicated in the National Hurricane Center forecast and our own forecasts. It's approaching the coast of Mexico. A major city in the path is Manzanillo, which is about here, if I'm not mistaken. Wherever it comes on shore, it's going to produce strong, potentially damaging winds. Surge won't be too significant because the coast rises steeply, so there's not really a lot of land near to sea level to be inundated, but anyone on the coast is obviously in danger from high waves. The biggest threat, regardless of how strong it gets, is going to be rainfall inland in mountainous areas where you will see flash flooding in the valleys. So take care near any rivers in the area as it moves onshore. In terms of peak intensity, we could see anywhere from 65 to 80, perhaps even 85 miles per hour. I don't expect it to get to Cat 2. It simply doesn't have enough time. As you can see, the GFS initializes a little bit too weak, not by much, and intensifies it fairly reasonably. A bit slow because the system is more organized right now, but if we swap over to the HWRF, it's much more aggressive, and does have the system becoming a 80-mile-an-hour hurricane before making landfall east of where the GFS has it. Now, if we swap over to a map of Mexico so we can see where the population areas are. Obviously, you have Manzanillo here, Tecoman, but where the HWRF brings it to shore, there's not a lot there. It's quite a rural area. We have some smaller towns, Maruata, Pomaro, and other places around here, but generally the HWF solution is a better solution than what we were seeing earlier, where models wanted a hurricane making landfall in downtown Manzanillo. So an improvement from model guidance, which is always what we like to see, but still a potentially life-threatening situation if you get caught in one of those flash floods.
It should also be noted, of course, with this system, the heaviest of the rain is going to be occurring far to the east of where this storm is going to make landfall.
Yes.
Far to the east. Like, we're talking The NHC is saying localized 15 inches. I've seen that the GFS has been pretty consistent on localized 20 inches of rain, specifically in Guerrero province, which is where I'm most concerned about flash flooding and heavy rains. Of course, the landfall area, it seems like in the landfall area, the biggest threat's going to be the wind threat. I don't think that surge is going to be too big of a problem. This is going to be a relatively small storm. There will definitely be some storm tides, and obviously rip currents are always a threat whenever there's one of these storms coming ashore. So don't completely count it out, but it's not the biggest threat here. In the immediate landfall area, the biggest threat's going to end up being wind. But as you go further east along the coast, that would be down towards the Michoacan and Guerrero provinces. That's where you're going to see the heaviest rainfall associated with this storm, and probably where the worst effects are going to be.
Alright, we'll switch it over to Mike. Mike, what are you streaming here? You're also looking at a zoomed out view of where Dolores is right now. You have anything to say?
Yes. I would like to say that this system has very good polar outflow, and that's due to an anticyclone that's like right here, and an upper level low that should be around here, and that's just affecting the air from the upper levels just northward. There's also some more outflow to the west. You can see it here. While it's also getting some more inflow from around here, which is giving it some of its moisture. And I'm expecting it to continue this process that is really helping it strengthen over the next few hours and days. So yeah.
Alright, and switching it back to Jonesy's stream, looks like you have the Recon for 3L pulled up. What are you seeing from this?
Oops, sorry, I was muted. As Leahy was saying, there was recon a little earlier. We do have an active recon in there as well, and what it is showing us with 3L is there is an elongated LLC, and the LLC is all the way over here, and this is all your convection and rainfall over here, and this is where they're finding the biggest barbs. Now I'm actually going to zoom out and scroll down here. As you can see, the dark greens are 34 to 40 knots. This is where tropical storm force winds begin. As you can see, nowhere in the LLC, the low-level circulation, is there any of those barbs. The highest is 30 to 34 knots. That's tropical depression. Over here in the convection, we're seeing a bunch of tropical storm force barbs, and even over here, closer to the shore by the mouth of the Mississippi River, the highest wind gust they found, 10-second, is 47 knots. But as I said, it's over here in all the convection and nowhere near the elongated LLC. This is why it is still potential tropical cyclone 3 and not tropical storm or subtropical storm Claudette. Another thing, as I'm going to show here with the visible, it looks to me, and this is the elongated LLC, which the recon was going into, it looks to me the low-level circulation is actually moving a bit southwards, while everything else with convection is moving northwards. Now, if it wants to get its act together, then that would be good for it to move south a little bit, maybe get some wraparound firing on this side to get the name Claudette. But if it just does this little jot to the south before eventually making it to the north, then it looks like it's just going to stay potential tropical cyclone number 3, and it will not pick up the name Claudette.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see what happens there. Um.
Also,
Okay, looks
also I
like
have
you're
a
looking.
question.
Oh, you have a question?
Yeah, is the Recon 850 millibar or 700 millibars?
Jonesy, do you know that one?
That's a good question. Let me click the raw data file and we'll see if there's anything in here.
So it's low-level reconnaissance from what Tropical Tidbits is saying.
Yeah.
So they're at 850?
Yeah, probably. Because okay, so look, so the pressure was around 980 here in the beginning of the recon, but now the pressure looks to be around
Yeah, it's 850.
850.
Yeah, okay. That basically shows that there probably aren't tropical storm force winds at the surface. Because in that band, we have to work with pretty small conversions. So, like 0.5 or so, 0.7. So when we do 47 knots times 0.7, that's 32 knots, something like 35, 30 knots in this eastern band of winds. So pretty weak system.
And as I was saying, the best thing for this system is if the exposed LLC continues, let me bring back the visible, continues to go southward, maybe that will get some of it to wrap around and it can become a full tropical system. But at this point, if it's just doing this little jot to the south and then does the inevitable move on shore to the north here in southeastern Louisiana, possibly central Louisiana, but it's more likely going to be southeastern Louisiana, then it's running out of time to get its act together to become a full tropical cyclone and to get the name Claudette. It's becoming more and more likely that it's just going to say Potential Tropical Cyclone 3 or even just Tropical Depression 3.
I actually think it would be weaker if the LSC draws further southward because it's disconnecting with its convection completely, so it will further weaken. And I don't see how there would be more convection wrapping around the LSC if it's moving further southward. I think it's pretty much completely disconnecting from the associated convection and pretty much in the process of weakening.
And of
And
course,
Go ahead.
Of course, we haven't really had a potential tropical cyclone fail to become a cyclone in the Atlantic, not since the infamous potential tropical cyclone 10 of 2017, which was the year that they started issuing these potential tropical cyclone advisories. But of course, there's only about 6 or 7 hours until it makes landfall, so it's really running out of time, as previously mentioned. So.
And that's not. And I know you highlighted on it. There's an area of interest over there in the West Pack, and you can see here on the HWR.
Okay, major feedback from Nelson. Nelson, is there something going on? Is there something you want to report in terms of what's going on in your end?
Yeah, actually, right now I can tell you that the rain is beginning to slacken off. I've just looked at the radar, and for Metro New Orleans at least, it looks like we may be coming to the end of the precipitation portion of PTC 3. Certainly those areas I mentioned the first time I was on in the lower parishes, the river parishes, they are going to keep getting trained rainstorms for hours and hours and hours. And eventually the precipitation shield will lift into the North Shore, St. Tammany, and Washington parishes. But if you are anywhere west of downtown New Orleans, you've got just a few more minutes. And I'm not saying it won't get blustery, and you may have some tree branches break and all, but the precipitation itself is about to be over for those areas west of downtown New Orleans.
Yep. Unfortunately, it's going to be a long duration threat for areas outside New Orleans, of course. This is going to be a heavy rain event for a very large portion of the southeast, going as far into Georgia, as well as even Tennessee is going to be seeing some heavy rain from whatever is left of potential tropical cyclone 3L by the time it gets more inland.
As well as the chance, as I mentioned earlier, of a isolated tornado or two. There is a 2% risk area for today, and another 2% risk area for tomorrow, with a small 5% risk tomorrow. That's why they issued the slight risk down here in the southeast. Now, the southeast as well is not the only area, the U.S. area that we have to watch, and I know you highlighted about the Westpac area of interest, Invest 94W. That could be heading towards Guam, which is a U.S. territory. Now, the models are still out on how strong it's going to be affecting Guam, but let's take a look at what the H-Wharf is saying on
Well,
that.
I just pulled up Kay's stream. She is streaming the GFS run on 94W. Is it showing anything?
Oh, perfect.
Thank you, Xavier. So, yes, the other system I've been looking at is 94W, which earlier GFS runs, I think it was the 6C. Well, clearly not there. If I go out to the global region so that I can view it more easily. Yes, we had a significant typhoon impact possible for Guam at 6C. And then as we go through the runs, it was weaker at 12Z, but becoming a strong typhoon after passing Guam. And in the latest 18Z run, it doesn't even make it to typhoon status before dying south of Guam. And it isn't a tropical cyclone as it passes the Mariana Islands. So in the space of 12 hours and 3 runs, we've gone from typhoon to tropical storm to nothing. Obviously, that uncertainty makes it difficult to forecast. If we go to the ensembles, you can see there's still quite a few of them going for impacts to the Mariana Islands.
Okay.
Equally, the models could swing back and we could have them calling for a typhoon again tomorrow. But as with any small system, subtle changes have a much larger influence due to the sensitivity of the system.
Okay, can you go to GFS 200 millibar that we see the upper level environment? That would be
Of
pretty
course.
interesting. 200 millibar wind. Oh yeah. Yeah, I can see why it doesn't develop that good. There's probably some amount of shear there.
Yes, this is an upper level low to its northeast. And
Yeah.
another low to its southeast, but over the system appears to be an area of upper level divergence. But due to the small size of the system, it's very susceptible to small amounts of shear, and it just doesn't do very well in the latest run.
Yeah, the upper level environment looks pretty unfavorable.
We go to previous runs, and it's not much different, but it gets going that little bit earlier and has a little bit more time to develop itself and does a lot better for it. But it is going to be a matter of whether this small system can develop or whether it remains too disorganized. Because if we go to satellite right now, you can see Guam and the Mariana Islands over here on the west of the image, and this area of convection is 94W. Somewhere in there is a low pressure center that will move to the northwest while developing. In fact, I think it might be this region just here. It's a rather innocuous looking patch of cloud.
I mean, left of where you were showing, there's a bit of rotation. Yeah,
There
there's
is a little bit of spin, but I think that's just something in the ITCZ. But I think it's a bit further east than this. It's sort of here on the models, but yeah, somewhere in this general region between 150 east and 160 east, something is going to come out of the ITCZ moved northwest through the Mariana Islands, and if we zoom out, moved northwards before dissipating well south of Guam. Sorry, of Japan.
Right now, the H Wharf on 94W only has it as a tropical storm, and with the track and intensity, let me just bring up the track, it's supposed to be a tropical storm when it goes right in between the Northern Mariana Islands and Guam.
Well, the weaker it is, the better, considering the fact that the last thing we need is more land impacts on top of what we're already dealing with for the U.S. and Mexico. So the weaker it is, really the better, to be honest. In the meantime, as we are getting into the last 20 minutes of the hour, if you have any questions about 3L or Dolores or 94W, you can tag us at Force13. That will make our name orange, and we will be able to see your questions or comments on these storms. So we will get to those questions, of course, as we progress through the next 20 minutes.
It looks like the recon team might be leaving the storm. They are getting further and further away from the LLC, and it looks like the plane has this upward movement. So it looks like the recon might be ending soon, and we all know, it found an exposed low-level circulation, so we're not expecting them to give it Claudette at 11 p.m. from the
They're
NHC.
not leaving. They're just exploring the winds near the coast.
Ah, okay.
The height is still constant.
Ah, okay. I see now. But yeah, we don't expect the NHC to upgrade this to Tropical Storm Claudette at 11 p.m. the next advisory. It's running out of time to even gain the name. And I know I saw some people in the chat saying there is the chance that it could regenerate off the coast of the Carolinas early next week.
A rather small chance at this time.
But it's, yeah, as Kay just said, it's a rather small chance. It would have to tap into the Gulf Stream quickly and have just the perfect atmospheric conditions to do that. But with frontal systems just going to be going one after another off the East Coast over the next couple of days, one of them being the enhanced risk that's up in the Ohio Valley right now, this is running out of time to become any kind of system in general. Any kind of name, whether it gets it now or off the Carolinas.
Yep.
Yes.
3L has, of course, lived a very lopsided life. It's been really struggling this entire time, as there haven't really been the best components, especially this year. That's why it's looking so lopsided. You only have tropical storm force winds extending to the eastern side, the northeastern and southeastern, practically zero in terms of the wind field to the northwestern and southwestern quadrant, but a very large and expansive 180 to 200 miles in both quadrants in the eastern side. So that this is definitely textbook lopsided storm, except it really does not look like it is going to get its act together in time for it to make landfall at this point. Still, of course, still a good chance that it could get named, but as of right now, it's running out of time. Only got, 6 to 7? Less than that?
Probably.
Yeah, not long now, thankfully.
Sorry, you can go ahead, Kat.
We could go back to Dolores.
Yeah.
I've noticed in the last few frames there's been multiple convective blow-ups, small for now, around where the center of the storm is, and if you trace them it draws a circle, which would suggest that there is at least a formative inner core, potentially a low-level eye-like feature from which an eye would develop in the future, and if that's the case, it could well be beginning its rapid intensification as we speak.
I'm going to answer some of the questions that we have in the chat right now. Of course, the one has asked from CJ Cruz, do you think Dolores will become a hurricane? Definitely has a very good chance.
I would say so. I think so.
Just from the appearance now, it probably will be a hurricane.
Nelson, we're getting major feedback from you again. Is there something you wanted to add in? Okay, guess he's not with us right now, but, next question, another one. What intensity is Dolores gonna potentially make landfall at?
Right now, the NHC and what we're going with here on Force 13 is 65 miles an hour. I know that's down from the original peak landfall of 70 miles an hour.
This was also from a cone that we made earlier. I think
Yeah.
opinions have changed in the last several hours based on the
Definitely.
structure improvements and
Definitely.
models.
With the models and the structure improvements, I'd say the low end is that 65 to 70 miles an hour. But personally, what I would say, and this is not speaking for the rest of the team, personally, what I would say, I think a 75 to 80 peak is possible with Dolores, so that would be a low end category 1.
How long does the storm have to landfall? That would be a question that
24 hours.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
about 24 hours. The 7 p.m. intermediate advisory, the cone from the National Hurricane Center, which I have up now, they're saying it looks to be a little bit after 1 p.m. Pacific. Tomorrow is the expected landfall. As you can see, this is where it is right here for 1 p.m. Just off the coast, so probably be closer to about between that 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific time ballpark is when the landfall is supposed to occur according to the National Hurricane Center. So really, that's give or take 16 to 18 hours from now.
Well, Ryan Leahy has the visible side of imagery on Dolores, and it's definitely looking more organized than it has been the last several hours.
Yeah, it has been, and you can also see what Kay is mentioning. You can see some thunderstorms really blowing up there around the center. So yeah, it is definitely getting its act together, and I think that this has a pretty good chance of becoming a hurricane within the next 24 hours before it makes landfall somewhere on the coast of Mexico, probably in Jalisco would be my guess. I think that's where the NHC. I think that's where the NHC has it making landfall, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it is possible. Manzanillo is definitely going to be taking a pretty good hit from this for sure. And of course, if you remember our cyclone history, Bridget was one of the recent ones on this day, and that did pass very close to Manzanillo. So it's kind of, I guess, trying to go off after the anniversary of that. So unfortunate timing for that one. Guarantee it's probably not going to be as strong or as impactful, but it's still going to be a significant storm regardless. That should mean that those there should be taking action, preparing if you haven't already, because of course there is tropical storm warnings and hurricane watches that are in place at the moment. Yeah, Kay has the cone. I have now displayed that. And it looks like, yeah, 50 miles an hour and moving northwest at 7. Is there anything special that you should be taking away from the cone?
Well, you can see that the area of hurricane watch is significantly larger than the cone. And what that means is that while we expect it to move inland around here, in fact, the hurricane watch might be expanded to the east slightly with the eastward adjustment in this fix. If for some reason the high changes or the track changes, it could still go past Manzanillo and out here. There's a very slim chance of it making it off the coast all the way to this part of Mexico. But as of right now, a landfall is heavily favored in about 24 hours' time.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be, well, based on that, it looks like it's going to be between around 1 or 2 p.m. Pacific time.
I was saying Pacific time earlier. I just looked at the cone now. They actually have this in Central Daylight Time, so
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah.
even earlier than
So yeah, it would
Pacific,
be 1 hour. Yeah, so it would be 1 p.m. Central, or 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Central, 12
Which
to
is-
1 in Pacific time.
well, 11 to
Well,
12 Pacific.
tomorrow morning,
Oh yeah, Mountain Time. Yeah.
local time.
Yeah. So it's going to be very soon that it makes landfall. Tropical storm force winds are actually inland when there isn't tropical storm warnings based on that NHC graphic.
Yeah, that is
Potentially,
true.
yes.
Potentially. I saw a question from in the chat. Do you think Dolores could affect the capital city, the state of? Oh, I'm sorry if I'm going to butcher this. Michoacan, and the capital there is Morelia. If so, what safety measures should I take?
I don't know where that is. Where in that state is it? Is it like on the western side of the state?
Okay,
Then
it's
you
getting-
might see something.
So it looks like that is located a little bit inland, which means by then it should be
Quite a bit
yeah,
inland.
quite a bit. Yeah, quite a bit to the east actually, where this is going to be making landfall as well.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
The only
we might
place
get some rain.
inland that could see it, any impacts, which would be primarily rainfall. Well, actually, given how far away the rainfall could be, you could see some rainfall impacts as far away as Morelia. But I wouldn't take any significant precautions unless you're in a flood-prone area, besides making sure your roof doesn't have any holes in it. Perhaps move any belongings off the floor if you've had issues with flooding before, but nothing major for Morelia. Just some potentially flooding rain.
Yep. Let's see here. More questions. Another ping, or that saying, asking us, is there a possibility that 3L could organize over land? Very, very doubtful. Land is actually what usually stops cyclones, so land is always a hindrance. Given the fact this has already struggled to organize, and the fact that wind shear is going to continue to be a very large issue for this storm.
Well, you say that, but I've seen a couple of people commenting how this is possible to improve an organization over land, similarly to what's Alberto
2018, yeah.
Yes.
I know the Euro model was trying to hint on that actually being a possible scenario with this. So I think
the Euro does have a brown ocean bias,
Yeah.
and it would only be within a few hours of landfall while it's over the marshes of southeast Louisiana.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
the
for
Euro
those-
has an extreme bias to deepen storms after landfall. Just want to remind to like what it did with Hanna 2020, with like 870
went from a
in central Mexico.
while over land.
And
So
for
what?
those,
Seriously.
for those that don't know what we mean by the brown ocean effect, would anybody here like to explain it? Because I think I would probably mess up.
Yeah.
The name.
Yeah, so basically the brown ocean effect is when you have a tropical cyclone intensifying over land, pretty much. It's very rare. I can only think of only a few storms that have ever done it, like Cyclone Kelvin in the Australian region in 2018. That's really the only one that I can really think of
It's
right now.
quite common over the Yucatan Peninsula. Storms such as Opal has strengthened while over the Yucatan Peninsula, but also a lot of hurricanes that make landfall on the Caribbean coast don't weaken anywhere near as much as they would making landfall somewhere else.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
extremely common in the Australian region. We even had
Oh, yes.
tropical cyclone that formed over land because with the Australian region you have flat land and high moisture soil soil content, and that basically is the ingredients you need for the brown ocean effect: flat and high moisture soil content.
Another question. Apart from Potential Tropical Cyclone 3, Dolores, and 94W, are there any indications of other Atlantic activity, whether visual or in the models, and what any future EPAC activity?
Well, I'm sorry for cutting you off there, okay? As was shown in the beginning, there is a brand new area of interest in the Eastern Pacific. The models, it's still too early on it, and it's greater than 5 days. Any formation, if it did occur, would to occur. That's why right now we're only going with a 10% area.
Well,
For that, Kay, if you want have more information on that,
I'm pretty
you can
sure
go
Kay
ahead and
knows
say
more,
it.
considering the fact that she was doing the analysis on the models earlier. So
Yes. There is a currently low chance of tropical cyclone development in this region to the south of Mexico and to the southwest of Guatemala and other parts of Central America. GFS and the GFS ensembles, as well as hints on other models, support a tropical depression or weak storm forming, and then beyond the reliable time frame of 5 days, moving westward, intensifying. The ensembles, a lot of them show becoming a hurricane, but equally this far out, they're very unreliable. Some of them bring it onshore as some sort of system very near to where Dolores is going to make landfall. Others move them out to sea, where they would harmlessly dissipate. And obviously, it's too far out to say, but there is a low risk of continued rainfall and potentially wind impacts towards the end of next week into the start of the week after next.
indeed, of course, we are coming to the close soon. So if you have any more questions, please get them sent out before we do the we wrap up with the on this day and the next names.
I know I saw some people earlier in the chat were saying, well, 2L became Bill out of nowhere in the Gulf Stream, and nobody expected that. Well, Bill had to. I'm just going to say it.
Oh,
Appears we lost Jonesy, but yeah, 93L or 93L, which became 2L and then Bill. That
Sorry, I got my internet decided to go out on me real quick. But yeah, Bill, it had the conditions to become Bill in the Gulf Stream. Potential Tropical Cyclone 3L won't. When it gets over there, it's not going to have the same conditions that Bill did, so the odds of it becoming Claudette over there are slim to nil. I'm not leaving it out of the range of possibility, but it's most likely not going to happen. If it was going to get the name Claudette, it would have to do it now, but time is running out for it to do so.
that's a fair assessment.
Alright, thanks to our team for helping out with tonight's live tropical weather bulletin. Of course, our team that did consist of Kay, Leahy, Mike, Dakota, Devin, Jonesy, Nelson. Nelson, I hope you are getting towards the end of 3L, of course, as that was impacting you. And of course, we'll see you for another tropical weather bulletin tomorrow night. Alright, let me get this. Leahy, Mike, Dakota, Devin, Jonesy, Nelson. Nelson, I hope you are getting towards the end of 3L, of course, as that was impacting you. And of course, alright. Okay, this is odd. Sorry about that. Alright, on this day, we had Typhoon Opal, which was a Category 2. This was in the Western Pacific, southeast of Japan. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Apparently, getting the on this day was a bit difficult, but regardless, we have it here now. Opal was, of course, Category 2, passing to Southeastern Japan. Only peaked as a Cat 2, and with that, that is it for this part. Category 2. This was in the Western Pacific, southeast of Japan. Sorry for that. Apparently, getting on this day was a bit difficult, but regardless, we have it here now. Opal was Category 2, passing to Southeastern Japan. Only peaked as a Cat 2, and with that, that is it for this part. Well, the next two names in the Atlantic are now Claudette and Danny. The next two names in the Eastern Pacific are Enrique, followed by Felicia. And the never-ending wait for Hone continues, as there is likely not to be Hone anytime soon. In the Western Pacific, the next two names there are Champy, followed by Infa. In the North Indian Ocean, the next two names there are Gulab, followed by Shaheen.